Okay. Well, Governor-elect, first of all, if you could, inauguration coming up right around the corner here. Have you had a chance to, in all the transition and all the things that have been going on right now, think a little bit about the historic nature of this, being the first woman to take office as governor here?
I have. I've reflected on it. I think certainly it is an honor. I embrace it. But I think the greater historical part of this is going to be delivering results and making sure that the path that I pave is going to be there for other women. And so that is the greater challenge that I have.
Is this something that you were always dreaming about when you were young, or did it just present the opportunity to run for governor?
You know, public service has always been my goal. Even as a young child, I always saw myself as working as a public servant. That's why I became district attorney in 1986, or a prosecutor, and then later district attorney. But I always saw myself in a way that I could be of greater service to people that in the community that I live in, and certainly in the state of New Mexico that I love so much.
Was there ever that thought, I could be governor one day?
Yeah, there was. There was.
When you get into office, you go through your inauguration, what's going to be one of your first priorities when you get in office?
The number one priority is going to be to balance the budget, and to balance it in a way that doesn't just impact the current fiscal year, but that will impact and balance for all future fiscal years, which is going to mean that we're going to have to trim back on government spending. That has to take place in order for New Mexico to become attractive, for businesses to grow that are already here in New Mexico, and for other businesses to come to this state, knowing that we're not going to spend more than we make.
You talk a little bit about business in New Mexico. Obviously, with the way the economy is right now, how do you solicit or get more businesses to come into New Mexico at this time?
The way we create a friendly business environment in our state is to, number one, make sure that we have an environment where regulations aren't killing jobs. Making sure that the tax structure is not so intrusive and so costly to do business in New Mexico. We're not competitive with our surrounding states. We tax a ton of services that Texas nor Colorado nor Arizona do. And so we have to start making it attractive by cutting back on the taxing that takes place of those businesses. And so don't grow government just because there's extra money. Make sure that we give that money back to the businesses so they can invest it in their business.
On the minds of a lot of people is education. Obviously, campaign promises that you're not going to cut anything that would affect the classroom. How do you manage to do that given this $400 million plus deficit going on right now? Is there going to be any way that you're going to be able to meet or live up to that promise?
Absolutely. I'm committed to doing that. We have to turn education around. We're 49th in the nation in education, and if we don't turn that around, then we're going to have lost much more in 10 years from now. We keep adding to education, for example, $728 million in recent years, and we are still 49th. What we have to look for is the waste in the administrative divisions of the education. We have to cut the spending where there is excess, and we're doing an analysis of education right now as we speak to make sure we're cutting out the waste and the excess in that department.
I guess that's the question. Will there be enough there to cut to make up for this deficit? I mean, APS is saying that 89% of their budget goes to teacher salaries. Is there going to be enough to cut without having to maybe get into the classroom a little bit or cut back on teachers?
Absolutely. Keep in mind that education is not going to make up the entire $423 million deficit, but there is certainly excess in the education department for us to cut. But we're also looking at all other agencies and making sure we're cutting the excess in all those other agencies because we have to spend less. We grew by 54%, state government did, and the population and inflation was only about 23%. So obviously, we have excess.
Two big initiatives in the Richardson administration was the Rail Runner and obviously the film tax credits and incentives. What are your plans for both of those in particular right now? I mean, I guess first of all, Rail Runner, is this something you're looking to try to make profitable, and how do we do that?
Well, we're doing an analysis, and that's important for us to figure out what it is costing us in order to run the Rail Runner. I mean, unfortunately, we have spent an enormous amount of money, New Mexicans have, in order to get this mode of transportation running. But we have to look at a way that is not so costly to New Mexicans. But the same thing with the film industry. I mean, you look at the film industry, and they are receiving funding from the state. After spending money in New Mexico, they get 25% tax expenditure. I think it is important that New Mexicans understand what kind of money is being spent here, what kind of jobs are being created here, and is it worthwhile in order for us to turn around and give them back 25% of what they've spent here.
Can you say at this point in time whether or not you will change that incentive structure a little bit, or roll it back a little bit, not as much as it is right now?
We're looking at all options. We have not completed our analysis of the film industry and the benefits, the pluses and minuses to New Mexico, so we're still looking at that, but we're open to all options.
Okay. Changing tracks a little bit, just a final question here. When you think of New Mexico and you talk about non-business, non-related plans that you have in place for the administration, what are some of the strongest things you think that New Mexico has to offer to people who, see this state right now but may not know everything that it has to offer?
And what is it
what can attract people to New Mexico?
Well, it really is a land of enchantment. We have so much to offer. Culture, the variety of cultures in New Mexico, the people, the various, down south we don't get the snow that you have up in the northern parts of the state. We have the warmth, it is just a beautiful state with beautiful people. And I everywhere I travel now throughout the country, people really do admire how friendly New Mexicans are, and just the value of our culture. And that's what we have to offer outside of the business, outside of education, outside of what we want to bring people here to live and retire here.
Very good. Governor-elect, thank you for taking a couple minutes.
Sure.
Appreciate it. And congratulations on the upcoming inauguration. I'm sure that's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
It will be fun.
You look a little apprehensive even. You're ready for this, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly ready to start work.
Yeah, hit the ground
Absolutely.
running.
That
Yeah.
I'm ready for. The ceremony and all of that can be a little overwhelming, sure.
Yeah. How has it been the last couple months with everything on transition? I'm sure it's been nonstop.
Totally nonstop.
Yeah.
We started immediately the next day, looking at applications, making sure the website was up, making sure people were applying, and we have been looking for people to fill the cabinet positions from all over the country.
How has your work been with the other governors? I know that you all immediately jumped in with Republican governors and are in a position there to take some leadership roles.
We met right away with some of the Republican governors, but we also met at the White House with all newly elected Democrat and Republican governors to visit with the president. And so I think it's important as governors that we start to pull together and start doing what's best for our state, and that we get that message across to the federal government that how we would like some flexibility to meet the needs of each of our states.
Very good. Well, Governor-elect, thanks again. I appreciate